People will never truly understand the depth of your impact until you step away. As long as you're always there, always available, always showing up, your presence becomes expected. It blends into the background. People assume they can rely on you, that you'll always be there to pick up the slack, to provide, to contribute. But the moment you remove yourself from the equation, something shifts. Suddenly the things you did so effortlessly, the value you brought without asking for recognition, those things become painfully obvious in your absence. Think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you consistently delivered, yet no one seemed to notice? Maybe in your job, you handled everything efficiently, met deadlines, solved problems before they even surfaced, and yet no applause, no appreciation, no acknowledgement. But the moment you took a vacation, the moment you left the team to fend for themselves, suddenly everything was in chaos. People were scrambling, trying to figure out how you managed things so smoothly. That's when they finally realized how much you truly contributed. It's the same in relationships. Whether it's a friendship or romantic partnership or even family dynamics, the more present and available you are, the more people assume it's just the way things are supposed to be. They don't think about what life would look like without you until they have to. When you pull back, when you stop being the one who always calls first, who always makes the effort, who always holds things together, that's when the truth is revealed. Who really values you? Who notices your absence? Who suddenly starts reaching out, realizing they've taken you for granted? This is a fundamental law of human nature. People only measure loss when it happens. They don't count their blessings while they have them. They count them when they're gone. That's why your absence is more powerful than your presence, because it forces people to confront reality. It forces them to assess just how much they relied on you, how much they needed you, how much of a difference you actually made. But here's the key: you must be willing to step back to reveal your true worth. If you're always there, always available, always filling the gaps, you never give people the chance to feel what life is like without you. You rob them of the opportunity to appreciate you at the level you deserve. When you remove yourself, the weight of your presence is finally understood. The contributions that went unnoticed become undeniable. The things you did so effortlessly become irreplaceable. It's in your absence that people realize you weren't just around, you were essential. You weren't just part of the scenery, you were the foundation. You weren't just another player in the game, you were the game changer. There's a reason the most powerful people in history understood the importance of space. They knew that being too available diminishes influence. They knew that when you are constantly within reach, constantly showing up, constantly giving, people start to take you for granted. They assume your presence is a given, that your time is endless, that your energy is always available. But the moment you create space, physical space, emotional space, psychological space, everything changes. Think about the people who command the most respect. They aren't the ones chasing approval, constantly inserting themselves into every situation, desperately seeking validation. No, they are the ones who understand the art of controlled presence. They know when to engage and when to step back. They know that scarcity creates demand. When something is always available, its perceived value drops. But when something is rare, exclusive, or requires effort to attain, people begin to respect it more. This applies in business, in leadership, in relationships, in personal growth. When a leader is too involved in every detail, micromanaging, always present, always speaking, their authority weakens. But the leader who knows how to step back, who allows their presence to be felt rather than forced, commands more influence. Their words carry more weight because they don't speak just to be heard, they speak with purpose. In relationships, space is just as crucial. When you're always accessible, when you always respond immediately, when you never allow a moment of separation, people lose the ability to appreciate you fully. They assume your presence. They stop putting in effort. They grow comfortable with the idea that you'll always be there. But when you create space, when you allow distance to develop even briefly, people start to realize the depth of your value. They begin to respect your time, your attention, your energy. They start putting in effort to maintain the connection instead of assuming it will always exist. Even in personal development, space is a weapon. You need space to grow, to think, to strategize. If you're constantly surrounded by noise, constantly reacting to what's in front of you, you never get the opportunity to elevate yourself. The most successful individuals understand the power of solitude. They step away from distractions. They remove themselves from environments that drain them, and they create space to think, plan, and execute at a higher level. Space forces people to pay attention. It forces them to ask questions. It forces them to recognize the energy shift when you're not constantly available. And in that recognition, when you control your presence, when you decide where and how you show up, you dictate the terms of engagement. And those who understand this principle never chase, they attract. They don't beg for attention, they command it. They don't force influence, they create an undeniable presence through the very act of knowing when to step back. When you remove yourself from the equation, you force growth, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. It may seem counterintuitive at first, but stepping away is one of the most powerful acts of self-care and self-mastery you can undertake. Growth doesn't happen when we're comfortable, when we're in our usual routine, when we're always available. Growth happens in the gaps, in the moments when we are absent, when we challenge ourselves and others to step up, take responsibility, and rise to the occasion. When you're always around, always doing, always giving, there's no room for the people around you to step into their own potential. They don't have to stretch beyond their current abilities because you're there doing the work, picking up the slack, offering solutions. But when you step back, when you create space, by removing yourself temporarily, you push others to evolve, to figure things out on their own. They are forced to develop new skills, build resilience, and confront their own limitations. This is especially powerful in leadership. If you're a leader who is always at the front, always the one making decisions, always the one with the answers, you're not allowing your team to develop. They're not growing because they are relying on you to solve everything. The moment you step back, even just a little, you push them to think for themselves, to develop their problem-solving abilities, and to take ownership of the situation. It's only through the absence of a leader that a team can truly grow into its own power. But this principle is not just about others, it's about you too. Sometimes we need to step away to force our own growth. We get so wrapped up in the day-to-day hustle, the constant demands of others, that we forget to invest in ourselves. When we remove ourselves from the noise, when we stop putting out fires and running on autopilot, we allow ourselves the time and space to reflect, learn, and grow. Absence gives us the opportunity to recharge, to refocus, and to reimagine who we are and what we want to achieve. It's in the absence of constant action that we can gain clarity. We stop reacting to what's in front of us, and instead, we start strategizing for what's next. Without that space, we stay stuck in a cycle of survival, always moving, always doing, always reacting. But growth comes from planning, from taking a step back, from assessing what's working and what isn't, from making adjustments, and from elevating our mindset. When we're absent, we're forced to confront our own limitations. We come face to face with the areas in which we've been avoiding growth, the parts of ourselves that we've neglected. It's when we stop giving and start receiving, when we stop being the source and start being the student, that we truly evolve. This same principle applies to personal relationships. If you're always the one making the effort, always the one initiating, always the one showing up, you're enabling a dynamic where you're giving more than you're receiving. But when you step back, when you stop making the first move, you allow others to grow into the relationship. You give them the chance to step up, to put in the effort, and to recognize your value. Without your absence, they may never realize how much they've relied on you, and more importantly, they may never grow into their best selves. Absence isn't just about physical space. It's a mental and emotional withdrawal that catalyzes growth for both parties. It creates the conditions for new opportunities, new challenges, and new lessons. When you remove yourself from a situation, you allow others to rise to the occasion. You allow yourself to rise to the occasion. And through that rise, you both unlock levels of growth that wouldn't have been possible had you remained in the same position doing the same things. Mastering the art of controlled presence is one of the most potent skills you can develop in your personal and professional life. It's about knowing when to show up and when to step back, understanding the subtle dynamics of human interaction, and recognizing that not every situation requires your immediate attention or participation. It's the ability to control how and when you engage, not from a place of avoidance, but from a place of power and awareness. Most people don't realize this, but their constant presence, their constant need to be in the spotlight, and their perpetual involvement in every conversation or task often devalues their worth. They believe that by being everywhere, doing everything, they can maintain control or influence, but in reality, this diminishes their power. It's like an artist who overworks a masterpiece. They keep adding strokes, believing they're improving it, but instead they only muddle the original beauty. True power comes from knowing when to hold back. When you're always present, you're always in demand, but you're also always available. And being too available means you become predictable, even disposable. The key is in strategic presence, showing up at the right moments when your input will truly make an impact. The moments when your contribution will not only be valued, but appreciated to its fullest extent. When you master the art of controlled presence, you shift the entire dynamic. You stop chasing attention and start attracting it. You don't have to be everywhere at once. You become the person who others turn to when they need something meaningful. It's about knowing that your time and energy are precious, so you choose to invest them wisely, selectively, and with purpose. Think about it. Have you ever been in a room where one person's energy completely commands the space without them saying a word? Their presence alone shifts the atmosphere. They don't need to be loud. They don't need to dominate the conversation. And they certainly don't need to force their way into the spotlight. They just show up. And in their quiet confidence, they make the room feel different. That's the power of controlled presence. It's not about being absent all the time, but about being intentionally present when it matters most. It's about choosing the moments that allow you to bring the most value, to contribute in ways that others can't. It's about stepping back and giving others the space to rise, while still being a steady, powerful force when it's your time to shine. People will begin to respect your presence because they know it's not constant, they know it's deliberate, and they know it's powerful. And when you don't just show up, but you show up with intent, bringing your full energy, your focus, your expertise, people will feel that. They'll be drawn to you, not because you're always around, but because when you are there, you bring something they can't get anywhere else. The art of controlled presence allows you to leave a lasting impact without overstaying your welcome. When you master this art, you no longer need to prove your value because your presence alone speaks for itself. You command respect without demanding it. Your influence is subtle, yet undeniable. You have learned the true value of timing, the ability to wait for the right moment and seize it with such precision that others are left in awe. You become the person who others seek out when they need guidance, support, or insight. You become the person whose absence is felt and whose presence is sought after. Controlled presence is about balance. It's not about withdrawing completely or being constantly available. It's about being intentional with your time, knowing when to step in and when to step back, and recognizing that true influence comes not from being everywhere, but from showing up in the most powerful, purposeful way possible. This is the key to creating a life that is not just lived, but revered. Mastering the art of controlled presence, recognizing the value of your absence, and understanding how space forces growth are all interconnected principles that empower you to live a life of intention and influence. By choosing when to step in and when to step back, you allow both yourself and others to grow, evolve, and realize the true power of your contributions. It's not about being everywhere all the time. It's about being purposeful with your energy, making each moment count, and commanding respect, not through constant action, but through strategic, impactful presence that leaves a lasting impression.